Okay, again, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about back to school, and I know that for most of us here, summer just got started, so sometimes it's hard to get into that mindset. But when we own our own business, business doesn't stop. We don't get to take that summer break, that mindset that sometimes people have where, they can just take off for the summer and just kind of relax. So what we want to do is start preparing right now so that when we do hit back to school season, we hit the ground running. I love this picture. I think this is great. If any of you have kids or have had kids, you know what it feels like to be that parent jumping for joy because the kids get restless during the summer and they're really ready to, the parents are ready for the kids to go back to summer. And of course, the faces on these kids tell it all. So I just thought that was a great picture. All right, so I'm going to approach back to school a little bit differently. Instead of just giving you a bunch of to-dos, which I'll include them because, they're necessary, they're a necessary evil. But what I want to really do is get down to brass tacks, get down to what the root is of becoming a successful school owner. Here's the number 60, right? That's kind of the bullseye. And the reason I use that number is because years ago, I started out as a program director in 1990, and we had a mantra, and it was 30 new members a month. That was the mantra that we used. And in order to produce 30 new members a month, we needed to have 60 info calls coming in. Why did we need 30 new members a month? Well, we had quite a large school. We had an active count of about 550 students, and that was well before internet, Facebook, all of those great things. So how in the world were we able to do that without all of the gadgetry that everybody feels that you absolutely need to become necessary to become successful? So this is what we're going to focus on. How do we make sure that we get the number of inquiries, whether they're phone inquiries, info calls, website inquiries, Facebook response, whatever it is, we just have to make sure we have enough of X coming in the door in order to get Y results. So the goal is always the same regardless of the season. Back to school is not special for any particular reason other than the fact that we think that it's a great time of year because everybody's kind of back into the swing of things. So 60 is our goal. This is something that I would write down, and I would keep this in front of you all the time. I think this is true of every business. I know it is for me. If you focus on the activity and not the outcome, don't obsess over the outcome. Just focus on the activity that you need to do. Be in the now. Know what you need to do today. And if you can focus on the activity that needs to be done, you're going to reach your goal if you've put in the work. It's pretty much that simple. Whenever I'm working with somebody, especially if they want an accountability type of a partner, that's the first thing I will say to them is, what did you do today? Or what do you have on your schedule today that is going to generate an activity that is going to produce a new inquiry? That's where it all starts. If you don't have that on the top of your mind, you're really not in business or you're not serious about growing your business. This picture is great too, the saying on here, people go back to their old ways because they never fixed their minds. This is such an important concept. Hey, I remember when, actually before I was a program director, 1990, so I'm going back into the late 80s, my first job was actually during high school, and I cleaned the two schools that I worked for at the time. I woke up to clean one school before I went to school in the morning, so obviously I was up really early, and then the other one I cleaned at night. And one of the things that my master instructor at the time had me do was wear a cassette deck, right? Back when they had those, cassette deck on my hip, and we had a success library in the break room, and I had to listen to something that was going to improve my mindset, to educate myself. And he said to me, he says, Billy, he says, you're not cleaning the carpets, you're not cleaning the toilets. He says, you're learning, you're going through martial arts university. So I quickly became a big fan of Zig Ziglar. My favorite course of all time, I think, was Sell Your Way to the Top. And I just loved the way Zig presented himself. He was a master storyteller. And that was one of the, if I could point to any one thing, that was a fantastic lesson. Fill your mind, feed your mind, fix your mind until you have that mindset of a champion where you're willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. Jim Rohn says nothing is going to change until you do, and I can tell you from experience that is absolutely true. So, very simple question. Ask yourself, what am I going to do today to generate 3 info calls or inquiries? This is true whether it's the summer, it's true whether or not it's back to school time. That is 50% of the secret formula. The second half is taking action, right? We've all heard that a million times. Take massive action. But you have to get into that mindset where you persist until you've accomplished the mission. Darren Hardy, the publisher of Success Magazine, said there's 2 things that make someone successful. One is daily consistent action, and the second one is the pig-headed persistence to win, and that's out of his book, The Compound Effect, which is a great read if you've never read that before. So this is just a mindset. You have to be competitive enough with yourself to not accept mediocrity, and you say to yourself, hey, listen, you know, if I love marketing, great, this is going to be easy for me. But for the people that don't really enjoy marketing, this is going to take a little bit of discipline that we learn in the martial arts in order to get that done. And this needs to be the first thing that you think about. Another great story, Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about the body part that he hated working out the most, and it was his calves. Now, if you've ever seen his calves, you would never believe that because they were huge. But he said that because he didn't like to work calves, he would do that first. That was the first thing that he focused on because he knew if he got that out of the way, then he could go on and enjoy the rest of the training and the things, you know, the muscle groups that he did like to work on. So this is something that you're going to need to work on if you're the kind of person that wants to try to do marketing and be successful themselves. If not, there's alternatives, and the alternative is to get somebody who is good at it, who does enjoy it, and we'll go ahead and get that part done for you. That's mastery, that's delegation. You know, we could talk about that, you know, separately, depending on your situation. Okay, this is very important. Ads like this aren't going to save you from poor marketing and sales habits. If you live by price, you die by price. And this has become a trend that I've seen, definitely a trend that I've seen over the past 5 years, where there's lots of these kinds of ads. Every time you turn around, it's, you know, Father's Day, it's Independence Day, it's your grandmother's birthday. I mean, there's every reason in the world why somebody's going to get a deal or a discount if they sign up today. Regardless of whether or not it's a qualified lead or not, I don't know. But a lot of school owners are hinging their entire marketing plan and their success on ads like this. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a place for things like this, but I think they're being overused. When you start to see ads like this repeatedly all of the time, people in your community start to see you a little bit differently. They're not seeing as much value. They're not seeing you as an educator, as a professional, but more, you know, just somebody who's constantly putting out a deal. And, you know, for me, I don't really want to be known in my community like that. I want to be known for the value that I give back, to the difference that I make, and that's where you can command, you know, higher prices, and you've got students with you for, you know, 10 years or more. So, question, are you continually offering this type of promotion online? If so, why? Is it because you don't know what else to do? Is it because other things you tried haven't worked before? Those are important questions that you need to ask yourself. So if you're running these kind of ads all the time just out of desperation, we definitely should talk about that, because there are so many other things that you can do to generate business online that are very, very effective, that I think you'll actually enjoy a little bit more. Number 2, are your expectations unrealistic? Just talking with my own clients, somebody that has an ad spend and they're trying to spend $100 a month, and they're expecting this type of ad to have this, you know, result where they're getting 10 new members a month and then being disgruntled if they don't get it. That's just unrealistic. Again, years ago, if you took out an ad, and a lot of you that are online, you know, I see your names who's online, and I know you've been around a long time. Years ago, if you took out an ad in like a Clipper magazine or something along those lines, just a half-page ad alone would cost you $500, and if you were looking for the, you know, a full-page ad or a front cover, you were thinking about $1,000 or more. So in today's day and age, this is, you know, using Facebook, Instagram, other things like that are a lot easier to get your message out there, and you can target people a lot better instead of just doing a blanket message. I can include a call to action. I can do lead capturing and that to actually capture prospect info. But we have to be realistic on what we expect. So if you're spending $100, for example, and you're getting, 10 leads a month from that, well, then you're going to have to experiment a little bit and say, okay, well, if I have, if I spend 200, am I going to get twice the result? That's testing that you're going to have to do. And then, of course, what happens a lot of times is we're not bringing a new student on board. We're not using the onboarding process correctly. We're not bringing enough cash in the door to make up for what we spend on the ad. So it just becomes an endless loop. It's a bad cycle. It's a very uncomfortable thing, and it really does stress people out. So if that sounds like you and you're having issues with that, make sure you reach out to me, because I can give you a number of different solutions that you can look at that may solve that for you and make life a lot more pleasant experience doing business. So again, if you're feeling like that for any reason, or even if you are a successful school owner already and you're kind of stuck, you're not really growing, you're not advancing further along, we have to go back and we have to look at the root of the problem. It's usually always fundamentals. Now, isn't that true with our own students? Usually if somebody's not executing something well, or they're not seeing progress, there's usually a hole in their game. There's usually something wrong with the fundamentals. So most good teachers, instead of trying to teach them some advanced kind of technique, they'll go back to the fundamentals and recheck those to make sure that all of those things are in order, and usually that fixes the problem. Okay, what's your vision? Without vision, not only, let's see, I can't move my cursor here because of the way this screen is set up, but basically, if you don't have a vision, right, your business is going to perish. This is actually a quote that's actually right out of the Bible, right? Without vision, people perish. So you have to make sure that you're thinking along those same lines when it comes to your business. You have to be very, very clear. You have to know what you want. I'll just give you an example. I believe that a lot of people don't know exactly what they want. They kind of just, they're like, well, whatever comes in, I'll take it. If I have to, I'd love to have more adults, so, if I get adult leads, that's great. Well, if I have kids, well, that's great. I'll take those. So you actually have to know what you want. What do you want your school to look like? Who's your ideal student? Who do you really enjoy teaching the most? Once you know what you want, right, and you want to know who you want, then and only then can you commit your plan to paper. I don't know how many times I've talked to someone who said, geez, our adult program isn't very good. We're not really getting anywhere with it, or it's not growing. And I say, okay, well, what marketing activities did you do to grow it? And they haven't done anything. So all that goes back to what I just said. It's the root problem. You weren't really clear on what you wanted, and you didn't really have a plan in place in order to make it happen. So know what you want, know who you want, commit your plan to paper. You really need to be able to see this clearly. And then once you do, it's time to PDR. Practice, drill, rehearse. You don't go into a fight without training and preparing for it, and you don't go into a marketing plan or execution without being trained for it either. So it's very, very important. If you don't know how to PDR, practice, drill, rehearse, again, this is another conversation that we should have. I was very fortunate coming up through the ranks where we had a very structured system for PDRing, basically, and that's why all of us that came from that camp became successful school owners, because we had the formal training or the proper training in order to be able to reproduce the result. Next thing is take daily consistent action. I'm going to say that over and over again. It's really easy to get busy being busy, especially when it comes to back to school season. Oh my goodness, we have to paint the place. Oh, we need to change the schedule. Oh, I need to work on my curriculum. And you go through all of these things that are possibly action items, but they're not the right action items. They're not the things that are going to end up helping you put points on the board. Once you do have your plan in place and you've practiced, drilled, rehearsed, you've taken daily consistent action, don't wait until it's too late. Always take a look mid-month, or actually week by week, but definitely mid-month, to see how you're doing. This is the same kind of idea with like football or any other sport where, at halftime they go back into the locker room and they talk. They talk about what went well, what needs to be adjusted, and what needs to be fixed, so that you can come back out stronger with a very intense focus and make sure that you put points on the board to win the game. There's no difference between winning a football game and winning your monthly marketing plan. I always say that with marketing, it's just like the Super Bowl. There is no second chance to win. Each month you have a goal. You either win or you don't. There's no, hey, well, that's okay, you know, we'll make it up next month, because next month that never really happens. So we have to make sure that we know exactly what we're going to do. We've got the plan in place. We've drilled, we've practiced, we're ready for the big game, and then we take action and make it happen. All right, now let's get into the just fundamentals of getting the job done. I've been coaching people for 10 years now, and without a doubt, the number one reason that people are not succeeding in the martial arts business is they simply don't have enough activity. They have one or two things going. Many of the things are more retention-based ideas, and they're just absolutely doing nothing in order to ensure that they're in front of enough people. So, number one, be there, okay? If you own a school, you need to be there, because people will come by, especially during the summer. People are off, people will walk by your school, and they go to open your door, and the lights are off and nobody's there. You have just lost massive opportunity for, you know, to have somebody, to get new business from a walk-in. Last year, I remember specifically, I just got done training in a jiu-jitsu class. My class is at 7 a.m. in the morning. It was about 8:30 in the morning. And sure enough, a walk-in came in. Now, this wasn't even, this is not even my school. But since I happened to be there and I was trained, I, you know, walked up and approached the person, and sure enough, got the intro appointment set, checked back in with the owner later, and yep, they ended up signing up. So that may seem like a simple thing, but make sure you're there. If you're not there, if you can't be there for some reason, you have another job or something for some reason, make sure that you have information outside, so that at least they can walk away with some information. Perhaps they could leave you a note or something like that they'd like to see you or speak with you. But if you're not there and somebody just walks by and they decide to drive by and go to another school, boy, what a shame that is. And you'd probably kick yourself in the pants if you knew that they actually went to the next school down the street and signed up over there. Number two, answer your phone. Again, this is so important. The info call years ago was the lifeblood of the business. People still actually do use it. People will call you. So make sure that you answer your phone. Make sure that your staff is fully trained on info call procedure. Info call procedure is not just for phone calls. It is also for Facebook messaging, email responses, everything else. It is exactly the same. One of the things that I do as part of a service that I provide is I will actually do marketing for, you know, for my clients. And by doing so, I'm usually added on their Facebook page as an admin. So I actually see conversations that happen back and forth between prospects and school owner. And I'm just absolutely shocked a lot of times at what I see. Somebody will message the person and they'll say, you know, hi, so-and-so, you know, how early do you start kids? And the person will write back, 5 years old. That's it. No question, no, hey, you know, nice to meet you. Are the lessons for you or for somebody else? Or how old is your child? Any kind of question to get a conversation going, they simply answer 5 years old. Or how much are your lessons? $150 a month. Just like, almost like they were too, you know, like they were bothered by the fact that somebody was messaging them and they had something more important to do, like, you know, clean the bathrooms or something. So make sure that when I write this down, answer your phone, make sure that you are learning that info call script and you're putting it to use every single time, whether it is an email inquiry, Facebook inquiry, a walk-in, you walk up to somebody and just start a conversation. It's always the same. If you don't have an info call procedure or any kind of scripting to work with or learn from, make sure you email me and ask me for it. I'll make sure that I get that to you. Making outgoing calls, right? This is TCB, like Elvis said, right? Taking care of business. If somebody sends you an inquiry, do not sit there and wait for them to call you. You make sure that you reach out. I just went through this with another school owner. I was working on info call procedure with them, and they're getting some leads coming in via website, and you know, we were talking about the different people, because I can see those too, and I say, okay, how about this person? How did that conversation go? Oh, well, they haven't called me yet. Well, if you're going to be successful, when somebody sends you an email and says, hey, I'm interested, and especially if they're requesting more information and you simply just don't call them back, you're in big trouble. You really need to understand that people are busy these days, and just because somebody doesn't respond to you right away doesn't mean that they're rejecting you or that they're not interested. It just means that they're really busy and they just may not be able to get back to you right at the moment. So make sure you continue to follow up. When you do, Craig Haley says this all the time, and I love this. He says, you want to be a welcome guest and not an annoying pest. So if you're going to call somebody, call them and give them something of value, right? If you're going to email them, give them something of value. Share with them, you know, if they're interested in your kids program, share with them a video of one of your kids classes, or do a short little video of one of your mat chats or something like that. Send them something so that you educate, you motivate, and you inspire them to want to call you back, or to take action, instead of just calling and pressuring them with some sort of ad. Again, same thing here. Same thing with Facebook. Don't just keep plastering ads up there with, you know, monetary deals if you do it today type of a thing. If you're doing them right, you educate, you motivate, you inspire, and then you redirect them to a strong call to action. There's way too much going on right now, especially I'm going to see this happen with back to school. People see these little images, and they've got this nifty little phrase with a picture on them, and they post that up on Facebook, and they think that you know, that's going to work, that's going to do something. That's just busy work. So make sure you're not fooling yourself. Make sure that if you put something out there, it's actually working for you if you're going to spend the time on it. Here's a good example. If you're going to do a blog post and you just put the blog post up there and it's kind of a feel-good message, okay, that's great. That was really nice. But then the prospect keeps scrolling down Facebook and they read some other stuff. Maybe they read somebody else's blog, and you know, they're just kind of killing time. But if you have your blog set up where it redirects them back to your website, and then they spend some time on your website, and then eventually they start watching some video and it gets them more excited, and then all of a sudden they see your call to action button for more information and, you know, your web special or whatever you have going on. Now you've got something that's actually working for you. So you've used you know, a nice storyline or something positive, something value driven, but at some point it flows and feeds into your funnel. So make sure you're not doing any busy work this back to school season. Make sure that if you post something about how martial arts is great for new kids going into kindergarten, to deal with aggressive kids, that, you know, possible bully situations, make sure that when you redirect them, that they're going to find additional information on the same thing, because obviously that caught their attention and they're interested in that. Number 5, active versus passive websites. A website is just a tool, guys, right? A website is just a tool. Just because you have a website, don't be upset if you're not getting a lot of traffic from your website, if you're not doing anything to help drive traffic to your website. The point I just made about blog posting, that's an active activity. You are thinking out loud, right? You were thinking, hey, I'm going to put together this blog post, and my goal is to drive people to my website because that's where I've got this call to action waiting, and I want them to take action there. So I'm actively thinking, I'm actively marketing to drive people to my website. You can do a heck of a lot without spending a ton of money on, you know, Google AdWords and things like that, and just putting your hands together and praying that somebody, you know, is Google searching. We want to create interest in our program, right? There's not enough people out there that are just sitting around all day thinking, man, I'm just so interested in martial arts, I can't wait to, you know, to go Google search this. But what happens is if we put out great content and people start watching it, now they're starting to think about it. Hey, you know, that's different. I've never thought about that before. Let me look into this more. So marketing is an active activity, not a passive activity, and that includes website. Simple things, window banners, signs, snipe sign, things like that. Some areas will allow you to use them, some areas won't, but those are kind of a staple that you can use just to draw some attention. Summer promotional boosts. Doug Bertrand just did a webinar on promotional boosts. If you didn't hear it, I'll be glad to send it to you. What you do now, right? what you reap, you sow. So what you are doing right now, if you're out and about in the community, you find fairs, you find festivals, you find any place where there's human beings, and you get out there and you let the martial arts do the work. Get out there and do some demos. Let people get excited about the martial arts based on the performance that you give. Some places won't let you do that, but you can definitely have a booth set up out there. And what you're trying to do is start conversations, right? The more people that you talk to, you're going to gather some information, and some of them aren't going to be ready to take action right now, but you may be able to get permission to them and say, hey, listen, you know, is it okay if I contact you for back to school? Oh yeah, that'd be great. You know, we'll be done with vacations and things like that. We'll be ready. So if you're collecting leads now and you're making notes on when this person is going to be ready, now you've got a really nice list. Remember, we talked about that number 60. If we have 60 people that have said, yes, contact me when back to school starts, well, now we're way ahead of the game. This is kind of a fun one. Number 8, end of the summer alumni picnic, and I'll kind of explain this. Years ago, we used to always have a picnic during the summer, and it was always a lot of fun, but what I noticed was that a lot of students or ex-students or ex-instructors, things like that, they would show up at these picnics. And I think they just did it because they heard about it and they thought it'd be kind of cool to show up and, you know, reconnect with everybody. But I thought about it from a different angle, and I said, okay, well, what if I did this on purpose? What if I created an end summer picnic and I made it an alumni picnic? And the goal of the alumni picnic was to call every single person that had ever trained with us before and say, hey, listen, we're going to do an alumni picture. It's going to be a group picture of anyone that has ever trained with us in the past. And we would love for you to be there, be in that picture, regardless of whether you're a child or an adult. Once they're there and you can reestablish rapport, you'll be surprised at how many of those people will decide that they want to come back, and that's what we call a reactivation. So that's a very simple thing you can do. You can either do something where it's catered and, you know, make, if you've got the budget for that, or you can make it as simple as, you know, everybody bring a dish type of a thing. But the point is that you reach out to people, let them know that you're still thinking about them, that you still care, you didn't forget about them, and let them know that they want to be a part of that group picture, that alumni picture. That's just super easy to do. Number 9, this is an opportunity. I'm going to give you a chance to speak with me about this. This is something I did extremely successfully, a lot of fun, in my opinion, far superior to a school talk. And the reason I say that is because with a school talk, you're talking to the kids. The kids are not the decision makers. They're not the ones who sign themselves up. The parents are. So for me, I'd rather be in front of the parents, or at least meet the parents to have the opportunity. So one of the things that I did, and I'll kind of get into the story more if I talk individually, but when you approach the PTO or PTA of a school, it's very different than doing an after-school martial arts program where you have them for 4 weeks and you charge X amount of dollars. What you're doing here is you're actually holding a Parents' Night Out event at the actual elementary school location. The reason I love that so much is if you're a parent, when your kids come home and they've got chocolate to sell, or Christmas paper wrapping to sell, we all hate that. Nobody likes to do that, and it really doesn't raise that much money anyway. So years ago, when my daughter was graduating 6th grade, they took a field trip to the capital, and the capital in New York was Albany, and they were short on the amount of money that they needed for the bus and the driver and all of that stuff. So I brought it up in a PTO meeting that I would be happy to do a Parents' Night Out fundraiser for the school, and I basically said to them, I said, listen, we do these every month at the school, at our school, and usually we get about 20% of the student body to show up for these things. So if we get 20% of the elementary school kids here to show up for this, we're going to generate a significant amount of money, more than enough to cover the remaining amount that you're short. So we went ahead and I promoted this thing pretty heavily, and the parents absolutely loved it. And the reason it was so great was because the parents came to drop their kids off. They paid $20 for the event, and the parents had 3 hours to themselves, which they absolutely loved. But it allowed me to meet the parents face to face. I was able to get their phone number for emergency contact information. I was able to get their email address so I could send them a video of the event and send them a special thank you. And it gave me a captive audience of people. And that was just very, very powerful event. It was so good, in fact, that the word spread, and I ended up being able to get into all of the local elementary schools using the exact same thing. And it was very, very successful. So I can detail out that for you if you'd like to have a conversation about that, because it really was a winner. And the thing that made it really great was I didn't have to deal with a superintendent, because at that time, no martial arts school or dance school or anybody else was even allowed into the schools. They kind of put their foot down on that and wouldn't let it happen. But because it was a PTO fundraiser, that was something that was happening outside of school hours, and it didn't make any difference, and we were able to make that happen. This is an easy one. Number 10, just make a list of parents and or students who've got a child that's turned 5. Maybe they were too young for your program before, but if you make a list, I bet you'll be surprised that the number of kids that turned 5 and are entering into kindergarten. I know that when my daughter went to kindergarten, she had a little bit of separation anxiety, and she also had an issue with some kids that were more aggressive. This is a perfect time to educate parents and to have their child start martial arts lessons so they can learn how to deal with aggressive kids, bullies, so on and so forth. So just make a simple list so you're creating a target market of people, your lowest hanging fruit, that are right there in front of you that you may not have thought about. Number 11, have an open house. Bring in guest speakers, right? So if you're going to promote a mass intro, this is something that I do all the time for clients that have websites with me. I'll promote events on the website. Again, just another way to drive traffic to your site instead of waiting for somebody to show up. We'll create an event and drive them to the site. And perhaps you have a guest speaker that comes in that talks, psychologist or something, that talks about the psychological effects of kids on bullying. And then they tie that in with how great martial arts is to empower the child so they don't suffer some of those things. So you've got some social proofing going on for your program. And that's something that's interesting to all parents, regardless of whether they train with you or not. Same thing with ADHD. That's a big thing. All the teachers want to medicate the kids. You have an alternative. You have a seminar and you have somebody come in that talks about how great the martial arts is as an alternative to, doping your kid to make them sit and behave during class. You're going to get people that will attend that. And as long as you talk to the guest speaker that you have coming in, and you understand each other, and they're promoting you, and you're promoting whatever it is their service is, that's a great way to network within your community, and an easy way to create a mass intro opportunity for yourself. Number 12, this is a big one. Again, I'll talk to you about exactly how I do this. I did this years ago. It works great. A lot of people just don't do it. They don't focus on it. But always, always, always get the parents to participate in the child's intro. That sets you up to talk about a family membership versus an individual membership. We leave way too much on the table. Why would a parent want to do this? Well, it's pretty simple, because I explained to them that they are a VIP parent in my eyes, which means very involved parent. It is so important for that child to be confident before they come in for their group class, that we want the parent to participate with the child, go through the motor movements of what we taught the child, and or any verbal things that we say, so that the parent can help them recall that and practice at home before they come in for their next class. If the parent has not gone through the movements, they're not going to be very helpful, right? So really, really simple is when we're talking to a parent about bringing their child in, we want to tell them, hey, listen, would you also come prepared in comfortable clothing? I'd like to have you go through the actual motor movements of the things that we teach your child, so when you get home, you're going to be able to be helpful to them in practicing at home, so when they come back, they're feeling confident. Can you do that? And just by simply asking that and getting them involved, the parent starts to go through the movements, and they start to, subconsciously think about that and say, wow, this is kind of fun. Now that leads into, discussions about adult programs or family membership, so on and so forth. That's your first opportunity to get parents involved. The second opportunity is to have like a VIP parent type seminar. Some people call it a parents as coaches class. But when a new child gets started in your program for back to school, they don't know what you do. You do it every day and you know what you do. But they don't understand the journey. They don't understand the process. They don't know how you're going to get your child from point A to point B to become a confident young adult. This is the reason I think a lot of people will pull their kids and they'll say, oh, well, now it's football season, so we have to leave. Well, the reason that they leave is because they haven't seen enough value in it in order for them to want to continue. If they saw massive value in it, they would find a way to be able to continue that training. So after a child starts, very simple is to be able to approach parents and say, listen, we would like to have you come in. We're going to answer any questions that you have, and we're going to teach you some of the curriculum, again, that the kids have been practicing and learning during classes, so you can be actively involved with them and help them be successful in our program. Can you do that? So again, we get the parents involved again. Parents meet other parents. Sometimes they start talking and they'll say, hey, well, I was kind of thinking about, maybe trying this. If I do it, will you do it? That kind of conversation happens all the time. So yes, we're talking about back to school right now, but back to school is not just for kids. Back to school is an opportunity for not only the kids, but also for parents who are now going to have some me time available where they want to get involved in the program as well. One of the best things that you can do is be more active in sharing video testimonials, video clips of classes. Be an active self-promoter, but do it by highlighting the success of others. The more content that you put out there, the better. If you're sharing a video clip of, Johnny Jones in class and you're tagging his parents in it, well, all of their friends and family are now seeing this, and you're not spending any money to do this. So when you're constantly being a good finder in your classes and finding something, finding some way to praise your students, and then you put that on social media and you're tagging their parents in it, that's very powerful stuff, right? Who doesn't like to see themselves on there and receive a good job note? I don't know anybody who doesn't like that. And certainly parents love that, to have an instructor notice, pay attention to their child and make their child feel good. It makes them feel good. And that's where your referrals come from, right? So referrals are largely a part of how do you make somebody feel on a continual basis? Are you giving them value? And if you are, they want to share that with other people. Last one, number 15, adult me time. This is opportunity again, 6-week sprints, running club, adult martial arts classes, whatever it is. A lot of parents that now have kids going back to class, they now have this free time in their schedule, and they really do want to train, or they're looking for something to do, but they're not going to do it unless you give them an opportunity. So make sure you don't, make sure you're paying attention to your adults. I'm just going to run through this really quickly because I don't want to keep you a long time here. But additional thoughts on marketing during back to school. The mindset is 2 appointments a day. This is a story I've told before, but I think it's really powerful. When my wife and I first moved to Florida, we went to Starbucks. We were coming out of Starbucks. This guy from LA Fitness came up to us. And he had a tear-off book in his hand, and he said, hey guys, have you ever been to LA Fitness before? Well, me being program director by nature, I wanted to see what he had to say. I wanted to see what his approach was. And I said, hey, you know what? No, I never have. He says, I'd like to give you a pass. This is going to be a 1-week pass, so you can go in and check it out. We'd love to have you as a member. I said, okay, that's cool. He said, if you will go ahead and put your name and your contact information here on this side, I'm going to write my name up at the top. And if you bring this in instead of just 1 week, you're going to get 2 weeks free. So I thought that was kind of a neat approach. So I followed up and I asked him. I said, "Hey," I said, "how many of these do you have to get a day?" And he told me he had to get 25 a day. I said, man, I said, how long does that take you? He says, well, it depends. Sometimes it, doesn't take me but a couple hours. Sometimes I'm out here all day. So I started to do with math in my head. I said, wow, if he did this 5 days a week, 25 a day times 5 days a week, that's 125 leads a week, right? So multiply that out times 4 weeks in a month, that's 500 leads. Well, I'm pretty darn sure that you're going to be able to hit your new member goal if you had 500 leads a month. It just depends on, what you're willing to do to get it. That's a little bit more of an aggressive approach. Some people are really comfortable doing that. Some people are not. But that's the great thing about marketing. There isn't any one thing that you have to do or you must do, but it's an option that you could do, and it's an example of how a very large business like LA Fitness gets it done. Number 2, who would you like to bring with you to your first class? Again, that's really simple. Sometimes an adult wants to start and they're not confident either. So just by saying, hey, who would you like to bring with you to first class? They're like, oh, I can bring somebody? I said, yeah, we'd love to have you bring somebody. It'll make you, you'll have a lot more fun if it's with somebody that you know, and you'll have a training buddy. So just by bringing that up and saying it, that's going to give you another opportunity. Adult social nights, again, these are really fun. You have fight nights or football or basketball or whatever it is. This gives you an easy way to have your adult students introduce you to their friends in a non-martial arts environment. If they meet you, they like you, and you get into conversations about the program, if you're good at building rapport, it's not going to take very long before they're in there taking a trial lesson. Run club. This is something that I always did. I know my buddy Craig Haley does this. Run club is pretty simple. You have people that are training for black belt and they have a running requirement. It's pretty easy to let them know, hey, we're going to run every Saturday morning. Feel free to bring a friend with you that you think might enjoy martial arts. And then you go running because it's something they're familiar with. They may not know what Krav Maga or Kung Fu or whatever it is, but they're going to fall in love with you based on the experience that you provide. So you do something on kind of a level that they're comfortable with, and all of a sudden the next thing you know, they're a student. Simple things, women's personal safety seminars, things like that. There's an endless number of real estate offices and people that are in dangers and harm's way all the time. That's a simple way to promote yourself there as well. That's something you could actually do during the summertime. People that sell real estate, guess what? They have kids. So if you get in front of them and they get to know you and they like you, regardless of whether they sign up or not on an adult program, if they like you enough and you mention to that group that you're going to have a back to school seminar on how to keep your kids safe from bullies, that's another way to draw new business in. 1 demo per month. Really super simple idea. How many people do it? Not too many. And it's simply because they don't have it written down as part of their plan. When I was in college, I was walking to a class, and up on the Syracuse University Hill, all of a sudden I see this guy, and he's flinging people all over the place. And he was the local Aikido instructor, and he was kind of cool. I mean, he even looked the part. He was from Burma, and he had the the beard and the whole 9 yards. He was really something to watch. He was very good. Well, that inspired me enough to say, hey, I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go check this out. And then, Aikido is not something that I fell in love with, but I did enjoy it. And it was one simple way that, he got a new student just because I thought it was cool. And there's other people out there that'll watch things like that too and go ahead and do it. Like I said with the kids, spotlight your adult students, rate them a good job note online. It goes a long ways. Adults very rarely get praised. They usually get criticized more than they do praised, especially with work. So something like that coming from you goes a long way. So like I said before, yes, back to school, we're focused on kids, but that's really what we're focused on is getting our 60, right? We want to make sure that we get enough inquiries, so we have to make sure that we do enough activity to get ourselves in front of people in general. If your numbers are down, I would challenge you to make a list of everything that you actually did during the past month to generate an info call. And more times than not, you're going to find that it's not a surprise that your numbers are down. It's just matter of fact that you just didn't have enough activity going. And if you simply increase your activity, you'll make more things happen. There's different ways. You don't have to have, I don't want to hear somebody say, well, I'm a one-man show, I can't do this. There are umpteen ways to do events where you don't have to go anywhere. So if you're using that as a crutch, make sure that you get in contact with me and talk to me, because I will give you a list of things that you can do that don't require you to run all over town and aren't expensive to do in order to be able to generate the numbers that you need to grow your school. Okay, so let's do the math and let's be realistic. If we have 60 info calls or 60 inquiries, the old rule of thumb was you would get 80% to sign up for an appointment. So I reduced that by 10%. Just to make a point. So if your info call procedure is good, if you're good at, if you have that down, if you get 70% of them to make appointments, that's 42 appointments. If you follow the procedure that I would teach you or talk to you about to get parents involved in the intros and or an adult buddy, you'd add on 10 more just because you asked them to participate. So now that would be 25% of the 42 appointments you set would be about 10. So now you have a total of 52 opportunities or appointments. Now, let's assume that only 80% of those actually show up. That brings you back down to 42. And out of that, you're not a wizard, right? But you do an okay job on your intros. 70% of those people sign up and become full members. 27 are single memberships, and because you involve the parents, you're going to get 3 of those to sign up and become family membership. So that would be 10% out of the 30. So the math's really simple. And you can work this backwards. If I have 30 info calls, well, obviously the result is going to be half of that. You're not going to get as good. If you're not hitting these kind of percentages, it's usually because you need to PDR and work on, something in general in either the info call or your intro process or enrollment process. You have to constantly revisit those things. Those are just the fundamentals, and it's easy to slip and stop doing some of the things, and sometimes you don't even realize that you stopped doing the things. But again, regardless of what the situation is, if your percentages aren't as good and you're not converting as much as you need to, well, there's a simple fix. You just have to increase the number 60. Maybe for you to get 30 new members, you don't need 60 info calls, maybe you need 90. And if that's the case and you know yourself and that's what you need, well, then you got to get to work and get to the point where you've got that number of interested people that you can work with. Okay, this one's fun too. When pigs fly. When there is a chance or when there is no chance of something ever happening. I work on something that I call the rule of 2. You have a better chance of seeing pigs fly than getting 60 inquiries a month if you ignore the rule of 2. What's the rule of 2? The rule of 2 basically says that for every marketing activity that you execute, that you're fairly reasonably well trained in, you'll average about 2 new members from that activity over the course of over the year, if you averaged it all out. So if you do a birthday party and you follow the procedure properly, if you get 2 new members out of it, or an average of 2 new members from birthday parties over the course of the year, it did its job. If you spend $100 on a Facebook ad and you get 2 new members from it, it did its job. So now math is really easy. If you want 10 new members a month, you need 5 marketing activities. Times 2 would be 10. If you want 20 new members a month, you need 10 marketing activities. Times 2 would be 20. So if you're finding that your numbers aren't what they are, go back and take a look. And you can even do a little test for yourself and say, okay, I had 8 new members last month. How many marketing activities did I have in place that I really knew what, that I executed fairly well? And what was my result? So just take a look and say, okay, I had 8 members, and if I follow the rule of 2, that means that I probably did 4 marketing activities, and see how close you get, and kind of look back for a few months and see how accurate that is for you. I actually did this years ago, and I actually mapped it out on a spreadsheet based on all my clients. I just asked them, what marketing activities did you do? List them out for me, and then let me know how many new members. And when I put those on the spreadsheet, that's what the average came out. It was about 2. What I didn't notice was that the people that produced more, they didn't necessarily have a better closing ratio. In fact, it was actually a little bit worse. The only difference between the success rate, the number of new members that they enrolled, was the activity that they had in play. The ones that did the activity simply did better. It was pretty much that simple. All right, last thing. Allow me to be a performance partner for you. Nobody does well on their own, or if they do, you know, they're like a 1 in a million. Everybody does better when you're surrounded by a team or somebody to just check in with you, not to tell you what to do, but to pull the best out of you. So just a few points. Continuing to do what you've been doing ain't the best idea unless you're already getting the results you want. So if you're frustrated, you know, we're halfway through the year and you're not getting the results that you want, obviously whatever you're doing wasn't working so hot, so do something a little bit different. So here's an opportunity. You can accept my offer to break the cycle. I'm not charging you for this here. So number one is allow me to share my Parents Night Out fundraiser campaign with you. If I give you some knowledge and something that worked for me and now it works for you, you're going to be a pretty happy camper. Number two, allow me to run a back to school promotion for you that includes an online registration form to gather qualified leads. The goal is to hit your 60 so you have enough prospects to work with. Again, you know, I'm not going to charge you additional you know, monies or anything like this to do this. The point is to take action on something that, you know, you may not have done before, or if we have done this together before, you know, go out on a limb for back in this you know, fear-based mindset that if I spend a little bit that I'm never going to get it back. There's solutions to that to ensure that you do well and you're able to recoup any funds that you put out there. Number three, allow me to coach you and your team on the InfoCall procedure I use that is going to double the number of appointments that you set. Again, this is all about PDR. My clients that I work with all the time, and I think you can probably ask yourself this right now. Sometimes, you know, you don't make a webinar or ask for help. You just kind of keep repeating the same things over and over again, and I want you not to do that anymore, right? I want you to understand that we need to practice, we need to drill, we need to rehearse in order for you to break this cycle. Sometimes I think that we're almost scared that we're going to make progress or we're going to be successful. I'm not quite sure what the reason is why somebody wouldn't accept the help or doesn't want to go through the process, or if they're just too busy being busy. I'm not sure what it is, but if you really want to hit the next level, you're going to want to take me up on this and make sure that you're going through and you're practicing your InfoCall procedure. And then last, allow me to share how to reach prospects that don't call back or respond to your messages. This is a big one. I hear this one all the time. Hey, you know, these leads aren't any good. I got these leads, but nobody calls me back. Nobody responds to my messages. So what the heck am I supposed to do? You know, maybe it's my town, or maybe it's my area, or maybe these leads just aren't any good, and this, you know, these ads don't work. These are all the kinds of things that I hear. So what I want you to do is, this is another Zig thing that I remember from years ago that I really loved. Write down every excuse that you possibly have on a piece of paper on why you're not doing well, and then crumple it up and throw it away, please. And let's focus on creating a new list of things that we can do to get through to these prospects, to set the appointment, to get them in the door, because there are people in this industry all across the country, in all different states, that are succeeding and doing extremely well. There is zero reason why you can't be doing the same thing if you're willing to put in the time to figure out what you're missing. What's the missing ingredient that's going to propel you to the next level? So here's my email address, billstorm@billstorm.com. Just send me an email. Let me know that you want to talk to me about any or all of these things, or anything in particular that you want, and I will be happy to go through this stuff with you and make sure that you, you know, on the right track and you're able to get to the next level. Okay, I talked myself out, so I am going to go ahead and open up for any questions that you have. So go ahead. I'm going to just minimize the screen so I can see my cursor again. If you have a question, please go ahead and type it in now, and I will go ahead and field that question. Anything at all? Okay, I don't see any questions that are coming in right now. So what I'm assuming is that you're going to reach out to me if you have something specific. So I will go ahead and end the session for today. I will send out the recording as well, so you can go ahead and review it. But again, I encourage just make sure that you review this and plan in place, and that you know what you want and what you're trying to achieve. So that you've got a track to run on, and you'll be way ahead of everybody else that you know that hasn't gone through that process to plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. Talk to you all real soon. Thanks so much for attending.